This is the meaning of sports, of art, that people will see something beautiful and good in flawed man, and in turn glorify him who is beauty and goodness itself. I've started with this because I want to finish with it later on. You'll hear a lot about the connection between faith and sports, and there is a strong one. St. Paul said 2,000 years ago, "Do you not know that the runners in the stadium all run in the race, but only one wins the prize? Run so as to win." Every athlete exercises discipline in every way. They do it to win a perishable crown, but we an imperishable one. And I believe athletics and really athletic training is uniquely effective in assisting us Catholics in life's only goal, becoming spiritual athletes for Christ and his kingdom. This because the times we live in today are plagued by many maladies, chief among them relativism, disdain for tradition, and an aversion to suffering. To become saints, we must conquer these three. We must become convinced of the absolute truth concerning who Christ is, who the Church, his mystical bride, is, and how we are therefore to live, and relativism just won't do. Neither can we advance in the spiritual life if we disdain all that came before us, if we stand aloof from the treasure trove of wisdom in our capital T tradition, our sacred deposit of faith. And of course, what more can be said concerning suffering than from the lips of the Master himself? "Whoever wishes to come after me must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me." Athletics are an excellent means for combating relativism, disdain for tradition, and aversion to suffering. A lot of fields square nicely with relativism. If there are no objective standards to art and poetry today, one may indeed rise to the top of his profession undeservedly, faking his way there. But tell someone you can dunk a basketball, and then it turns out you cannot dunk a basketball. The response, "Well, it's your truth that I can't dunk. I believe I can," is immediately and unquenchably burned like chaff in the face of a cold, hard, and scientifically measurable reality. Any athlete who has ever attempted to become a serious athlete knows you cannot become even a little bit good without embracing the time-tested techniques and methods of the masters who preceded you. Ever seen an Olympic lifter with bad technique? Why do all major league pitchers and hitters arrive at the identical power position before throwing or swinging, regardless of the unique personal setup beforehand? To speak on suffering is to once again speak briefly. Anyone who honestly doesn't think that becoming an Olympic athlete or an NFL player or an Alpine Ski World Cup class skier or a PGA Tour golfer is extremely demanding and involves daily physical, emotional, and psychological suffering in the form of intense workouts and constantly saying no to various foods, social experiences, and even sleep schedules should be accused not simply of misunderstanding sports, but life itself. Athletics are, indeed, an excellent school for overcoming relativism with absolute realities, overcoming disdain for tradition with reverence for the right way to do something, and evolving from a position of once seeing suffering as an uncomfortable obstacle to understanding it as the only path to true happiness and authentic success. And the whole point is this: wouldn't it be splendid if the tens of millions of young athletes in America who learned these lessons applied them to the higher things of life? Wouldn't it be great if young athletes understood that the absolutism, traditionalism, and suffering character of their preferred disciplines were but a faint intimation of these holy values as they pertain to the faith, to the spiritual realities around which hang the questions of their eternal salvation? Athletics, Pope John Paul II told his audience during the 2000 Jubilee of Sports People, is, quote, "a fitting occasion to give thanks to God for the gift of sport, in which the human person exercises his body, intellect, and will, recognizing these abilities as so many gifts of his Creator. Furthermore, the practitioner of sports is ultimately God's true athlete, using the springboard of athletic discipline and achievement to become a strong athlete of Christ, that is, a faithful and courageous witness to his gospel. But to succeed in this, he must persevere in prayer, be trained in virtue, and follow the divine master in everything. When we think of Christianity and athletics, what often comes to mind is Tim Tebow and thanking God for championships claimed, sometimes these two together. And these are good things. And there are additionally plenty of Catholic athlete exemplars around us today, like former Major League Baseball player Mike Sweeney, who now runs Catholic baseball camps for kids that include recitation of the Rosary, Eucharistic Adoration, and Confession, or Olympic multiple gold medal winning gymnast Simone Biles, who always makes sure to have a rosary packed in her gym bag whenever an opportunity for prayer might arise, or Father Chase Hilgenbrink, who prior to his ordination was a professional soccer player in South America and reached the pinnacle of the sport in the U.S., Major League Soccer, before retiring at the apex of his career, 26 years old, to follow a higher calling. One can infer the divine providence at work in Hilgenbrink answering his vocation to the priesthood while a member of the New England Revolution. Here is a young and successful athlete thriving in Boston, the very epicenter of the clergy sex abuse scandal, and he's going to leave all that glamour behind to become a Catholic priest now, here. And so, like I said, we have these amazing Catholic examples throughout all of sports, and non-Catholic Protestant Christian examples like Tim Tebow. But what I want to focus on today, specifically, in fine focus, are football players, and 5 of them. And although briefly, I hope you'll see in their example something worthy of emulation and inspiration. Catholicism and football have a long and storied history. The colloquial term Hail Mary pass comes from Catholic quarterback Roger Staubach of Dallas Cowboys fame, saying after a game in which his team won on one of these last-second heaves to the end zone, "I closed my eyes and said a Hail Mary." Danny Abramowitz led the NFL in receiving yards in 1969 as a member of the New Orleans Saints, a year in which he was named first-team All-Pro. But more recently, since September 2008, Abramowitz has been hosting a television show called Crossing the Goal on the Catholic television network EWTN, which stands for Eternal Word Television Network. This program uses, quote, a sports show format to encourage men to get into spiritual shape. He also, Abramowitz, this former New Orleans Saints wide receiver, serves on the board of directors at EWTN and in an advisory capacity to the board of directors of National Fellowship of Catholic Men. When he was selected for the Mother Angelica Award, she, the foundress of EWTN, this television station, an award, quote, created as a way to honor people who have devoted their lives in service to the church, particularly in the service of the new evangelization, just as Mother Angelica herself had done. This annual award recognizes individuals who, like Mother Angelica, seek to bring others to a deeper knowledge of God. EWTN CEO Michael Warsaw said the following about Abramowitz when the citation for giving him this award, quote, in looking at this year's candidates, one name, Danny Abramowitz, stood above the rest. While the world remembers the former New Orleans Saint wide receiver as a football legend, the award was given to him for his greater mission, a second career serving our Lord by evangelizing men, especially young men aged 25 to 40. More recent NFL Catholic players of note are quarterback Philip Rivers, who spent nearly 20 years in the league, and 3-time Super Bowl champion kicker, record holder for the longest field goal made in Super Bowl history, Harrison Butker. Rivers, having retired, is now the head coach of a Catholic school in Alabama and had the following to say about his views on the relationship between faith and athletics, quote, being at a Catholic high school, our faith is part of the very fabric of our football program, and certainly a part of the mission of the school. Getting to be at a Catholic high school and coach these young men, we talk about, quote, the whole young man, all the time, spiritually, physically, emotionally, academically. If it's just about football, then we're missing out. And that's why I have such a passion for coaching at this level. It's way bigger than football. You want them to be better men for it when they come out of the program. And Butker, who reverted to the Catholic faith while at Georgia Tech, is arguably, and I'd say yes, in my opinion, I'd say yes, I agree, the best and most visible Catholic athlete ambassador in America today. He's at the forefront of many important issues, does myriad interviews, tweets, quotes from saints. He's a serious Catholic. That's what I'm getting at. And if you want to know how serious, what do you mean by serious? He's now, right now, not just when he was growing up, but right now, an altar boy at the traditional Latin Mass. Not that he attends weekly Mass every Sunday, as all Catholics are bound to do. Duh. Of course he does that. I'm saying he also serves at the Mass and had this to say about the Latin Mass recently, quote, "I think we live in confusing times. I think the culture is changing rapidly, and the traditional Latin Mass is so countercultural that I think it really entices a lot of young people who are looking for answers. They're looking for happiness. And for me, I found happiness in embracing the faith offered in the Catholic Church. I felt like I wasn't able to embrace it until I saw it completely exposed in the light. I knew that I had discovered authentic Catholicism, and I found that at the traditional Latin Mass, in the traditional sacraments, and I think a lot of the young people have found that as well. Young people are looking for answers. They want to be confident and excited about their Catholic faith. They just need to know what the faith is. And it's so clear for them to see that in the traditional Latin Mass and with the traditional sacraments and the traditional resources, all these things that are unapologetically Catholic, that aren't afraid to say things that are countercultural, but that express what we truly believe as Catholics. And furthermore, Butker, the Kansas City Chiefs kicker, opined that, quote, "We need to be saints. We can't jump ship. We can't leave the church. We are Roman Catholics. I think we need to stand up for the truth. We need to stand up for the church. But at the same time, we have to have charity. We still have to respect the positions that these men hold. We have to recognize what's going on. We have to become saints. We have to let our voice be heard the best we can." And he's talking here kind of on a side note, this whole thing that gets into the very kind of like weeds of modern day Catholic culture and the idea of the Latin Mass and the Mass in the vernacular, the Novus Ordo. And he's talking about respecting the idea of different episcopal decisions to restrict or allow the Latin Mass and all that. If this strikes you as like, oh, wait, what? Like, what is this? Exactly. This is an NFL kicker who's getting involved in kind of ecclesiastical debates. This guy is legit, to the max, right? And a very, very kind of like good man, proud of his faith, unapologetic in his faith. And so no doubt, I'll say that Roger Staubach, Danny Abramovitz, Philip Rivers, Harrison Butker are all, each of them, excellent Catholic examples to learn from. Seemingly good men besides, and without question, fantastic football players. But Catholic football personality number 5 is the most famous of them all. Save the best for last. Perhaps that applies here. This man came from a devoutly Catholic family. His father was a daily communicant throughout his life, and his mother's favorite picture of him as a boy was on his confirmation day. When he was 12, this guy, while serving as an altar boy on Easter Sunday, quote, "amid the color and pageantry, scarlet and white vestments, golden crosses, scepters, the wafers and wine, body and blood, the inspiration came to him that he should become a priest." Now, he did not end up becoming a priest. He chose a career, one might even say perhaps maybe God was calling him to a vocation, right, in football. But this man, into adulthood, into his very decorated and storied career, would attend Mass as often as he could. Daily, in fact. Just like Harrison Butker, he's meeting his weekly obligation, but he would go every single day. Each day on the way to work being leading as head coach, the Green Bay Packers, he would stop in a church and offer the following prayer: "My God, if I am to die today or suddenly at any time, I wish to receive this communion as my viaticum." Viaticum is a Catholic term for receiving communion. Catholics believe body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus Christ, the real presence of Christ. Viaticum, food for the journey. This John chapter 6. "Unless you eat my body and drink my blood, you have no life within you." Again, very, very Catholic guy. I wish to receive this communion to be my safe passage to the next life, to eternal bliss. And this man, by now I assume you know who I'm talking about, the legendary coach Vince Lombardi. Lombardi of the Super Bowl prize Lombardi Trophy. Lombardi of the Packers' 1960 Super Bowls 1 and 2 winning dynasty fame. Lombardi of the person who people consider maybe not just the greatest football coach of all time, but the greatest coach in the history of all sports, American otherwise. Maybe the greatest coach ever, period. And Lombardi, of the quotes, the often quoted Lombardi, maybe his most famous one being, "Winning isn't everything, it's the only thing." But this Catholic man had another quote, and it well sums up the relationship between faith and sports, and in echoing Christ's words in the Sermon on the Mount to, quote, "Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect." It's a great invitation for Catholic athletes everywhere. This Lombardi quote, an invitation to become the very best they can be, both spiritually and athletically. Perfection is not possible, but if we chase perfection, we can attain excellence. Sports, once more and for the last time, can help a person overcome relativism, disdain for tradition, and an aversion to suffering. And in being fundamentally about beauty, sports can point us in the direction of the God who is beauty himself, and whose creation reflects this reality even in the smallest details. Because, once more, this is the meaning of sports, of art, that people will see something beautiful and good in flawed man, and in turn glorify him who is beauty and goodness itself.